The next question we were asked by Colin on Facebook was, what special processing or reverb would you recommend? So like we've just done the what EQ, what compressor, now what other thing. So something like reverbs, transient designers, what would you recommend? So what I figured we'd do here is I'll just go through my recommendations for reverb, my recommendations for transient designer, my recommendation for what else would we have? Stereo widener. What else could we do? Saturation. So I'll just go through all my recommendations for certain certain pieces of equipment. So my recommendation, let's start with transient designer. Now the original transient designer is the SPL transient designer. I've got 4 of them, just literally there. And they're brilliant. They are the original classic transient designer. So you've got attack and sustain, and it's literally attack, sustain, no more, no less. Does the job. But the transient designer I would recommend, and I believe they're built by the same people, would be the Elysia envelope. And the reason I say the Elysia envelope is because it's an expansion on the transient designer. And it's not expensive. I think they're about £1,200. But what they are is a stereo transient designer. But not only is it attack and sustain, you also have the frequencies of the attack and sustain. You can also turn it into an EQ, which gives you, I feel like it gives you a band of, gives you like a high shelf, low shelf type EQ. I can't remember exactly, but that is a nice little Easter egg that's included in it. So if I was to recommend a transient designer, I would highly recommend the Elysia envelope. Really, really good transient designer. I have 2 of those. I have one in both my mastering studios. And I use transient designer in the mastering studio because it's a way to kind of get an upwards inflection on the transients. We can bring out the transients slightly, and especially with the Elysia envelope, because we can finally find exactly what we want to bring out. So really, really good. So that would be my recommendation for transient designer. Now, if I was to recommend saturation. Now, saturation, I am not a big fan of saturating something so it sounds like a guitar, a distorted guitar. I don't like that sort of saturation, because when I use saturation, I'm using it more in a mastering sense. I'm using it more in the mix. I'm using it more to colour an overall sound. So the last thing I want is to distort a sound. So I've got 2 that I recommend, but they're very, very expensive. They are not cheap. One of them's the Whitestone P331, and it's basically a very, very subtle colour box. It's not even a colour box, really. It's basically, best way to explain it is you put sound in, you get sound out. It sounds phenomenal when it comes out, albeit very subtle. But turn it off and you go, oh. Turn it on, you go, wow. Really, really, really good. You don't do a massive amount with it, but just turning it in and out changes that song to become flat, or not necessarily flat, but just underwhelming to, wow, it sounds really good. So that would be one of my recommendations for saturation. The other recommendation would be the Vertigo VSM2. Now, I say the VSM2 because, my God, like, I remember, okay, like, when we send masters back, we get a lot of people just going, wow, how does it sound this good? And we are literally like, it's the VSM. And it is. This VSM makes songs sound so unbelievable. They go from sounding like, you know, you can make a sound that everybody else can achieve. Every other mastering engineer can achieve this kind of sound. You know, they can achieve a sound, right? But only people with the VSM2 can achieve this exceptional sound that is that, it's that wow factor. And it does make you go, wow, how did you achieve that? And you achieve it using a Vertigo VSM2, and that's why it's so important, and that's why it's a £7,500 saturation unit. I mean, realistically, who spends £7,500 on a saturation unit? It's probably even more than that these days. But it is exceptionally good, and that is the one that I'd recommend. Obviously, it's a lot of money, and that is the one that I would actually really, over the Whitestone, I would say the Vertigo VSM2. Now let's go to, so we've done Transient Designer, done Saturation, Stereo Widener. Now you've got, I mean, I've got next to me just down here where I'm doing some reviews, I've got myself a SPL Vitalizer, which is like, it's a really good stereo widener, but I wouldn't choose that one. But if you want to go cheap, it's a very good one for cheap, because you're talking about under 5,000, under 400 for that. Whereas the one that I am going to recommend, and the one that I would choose, is the Rupert Neve Portico 2 master bus processor. And the reason I say that is because people don't think of it as a stereo widener, they think of it as a compressor, and quite rightfully so, it is a compressor. But if you use this as a stereo field editor, it is the best stereo field editor you will ever hear. It honestly is. It blows me away when you turn it in and out and bypass it. It's like the mix is here, the mix comes out there, but it's not like it just strips it wide. This mix just becomes this glowing piece. And the reason it is because you're using the compression in conjunction with the stereo field editor. You're using texture in second and third harmonics with the Silk Red and Silk Blue, and it's unbelievable what you can achieve with it. And you can get this super wide, super lovely sound that isn't ridiculously wide. It's not unnatural. It's really, really positive in the way that it works. It really is a great tool. I'm not keen on it as a compressor, but as a stereo field editor, wow, it's really, really good. So yeah, that 100% is my recommendation for stereo widening, stereo field editor. So the next one, Reverb. Now Reverb is a tricky one, because I would honestly say, don't come out of the box. What's the point of coming out of the box? Now, realistically, when you come out of the box with Reverb, is the problem you've got is they're all still digital. It's not like you've got analog reverbs. It's not that there's none really that are like these incredible analog reverbs. They're all still digital. And when you directly compare the reverbs that you can get out the box, the Lexicons, the RMS, AMS, RX16, Audified Synergy, what other ones? The Lexicon 224, 480L. All these ones, they're as good in the box as they are out the box, and I've tested these. Believe me, I've A/B'd and gone, well, that one sounds a little bit better, but they are technically all just doing the same algorithms, and you are really getting the same sound. So I would always say, with regards to reverb, stay in the box. Reverb in the box is brilliant. If you need to use reverb out the box, and you have to use reverb out the box, the one I would recommend probably going with, and the one I really, really enjoyed having, was the AMS RMX16, and that was very, very good. And the reason that I sold my AMS RMX16 was because the in the box one sounded identical. It wasn't like I was getting this hardware unit and like getting this lovely, rich, warm kind of reverb sound. No, it was exactly the same as what I was getting if I was to send it in the box to the reverb on a bus. No different. So in terms of reverb, I would honestly say stay in the box. But if you want to come out of the box, a 500 series RMX AMS RMX 16 is a really good option. I really liked how that sounded. So what else do we have? I think that's pretty much all of them covered. Delay. Let's say delay. God, what even delay would I recommend? I don't even think do you know what? I honestly wouldn't even recommend a delay out the box. I tell you what, if you were a guitarist, the delay to get, and I once had two of these, and I loved them, was the Mooga Fuga MF104s. If you can get hold of one of them, they sound unbelievable how good they sound, especially if you've got a guitar and you want to play guitar through one of them. Wow, they sound good. They are like, like that sort of sound where it's just like music to your ears, and it's like, oh wow, like that sort of sound. And we all know what that sort of sound is. That's what these Mooga Fugas sound like. But you wouldn't want to use these in production. They're not great for production. You want to run a guitar through them. Brilliant, lovely sound. In terms of delays, I wouldn't even recommend. I wouldn't recommend coming out the box. Delays and reverbs, I don't recommend coming out the box. You're better off staying in the box with delay, especially because you've got the option to sync perfectly with the in the box tempo. So I mean, why would you come out the box? The only time you come out the box is if you wanted to do anything live, and go through all the different lists of delays that there are available, and pick for yourself, because it's not like a delay is going to sound, one's going to be massively better than the other. They're all going to sound very similar. But if I were to recommend one, the Mooga Fuga MF104 sounds ridiculous with this the Big Brer, I think it is, chip in it. Limited edition as well. There's only 2,000 of them made. So yeah, good luck getting hold of one, and good luck getting hold of one for less than a couple of £1,000. I think I sold mine for about 1,700 each. So yeah,